Thank you, Miguel, for joining us in Scouted by GreyB. I'm very excited to host you today. So, Miguel, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and basically what My Green Cosmetics is?
Okay, my name is Miguel Galeón, and I've been working on the beauty arena for more than 30 years. I've had the chance to work and live in different countries. So I started my journey in London, then I moved to Paris,
Hmm.
then they sent me to Japan, and I did all Asia, and then I came back home to Barcelona. So I've been working for a very big group, multinational groups in the beauty. So I started working for a Japanese brand called Shu Uemura, which is still exists in Japan. It's a professional, very well-renowned brand, And my master, Mr. Shuimura, taught me many things about delicacy, attention to details, and the beauty of the objects. Because he always believed that to create beauty, you had to be surrounded by beauty. So on those early years, I had the chance to get into the fashion business, and I did all the big haute couture shows. It was the time of the 90s, so it was this very famous time of the top models. So I had the chance to work with big names like Linda Evangelista, Naomi Campbell, all these big girls, and I had the chance to work with them. So it was a very crazy time, but very creative, and I really enjoyed it. Then, through the years, unfortunately, my master, Mr. Shurimura, passed away, and my company was bought by L'Oreal. So I started working with
Oh,
L'Oreal in France, and that was a very good school because, as we all know, L'Oreal is number one in the beauty. So they had a very, very clever way of doing things, especially in the marketing. So I learned many, many things. And actually, it was like going back to my background because I did a study at university, publicity and advertising. So for me, going back to L'Oreal from the makeup world, it was like trying to get back all that knowledge I had from my university times. So it was very interesting to cope with both the fashion side and the marketing side. And then I was scouted by Puig in Spain, the big fragrance
hmm.
group. So I came back home and started working with them, and I founded the creative department, where I did help many, many different brands to launch new products. So I had the chance to work with prestige brands like Nina Ricci, Paco Rabanne, Carolina Herrera, and so on, and also mass market, and prestige, the ones in between. So I touched the three levels of the beauty market, and I did create concepts and brandings and namings and slogans, for new brands. Another time, many of my companions told me, Miguel, why don't you launch your own brand? And I said, well, if
Hmm.
I want to launch something, I want it to be completely different than anything that exists. So my innovation was that I wanted to do something different because after analyzing the market, I saw that many brands were doing the same things. They all had the same kind of presentation. They all the same kind of concept. It was all about minimalism because there is this very famous Australian brand called Aesop, and Aesop was created on the 90s, and Aesop was created in a period of Calvin Klein aesthetics. So it was all about minimalism. It was like presenting nature in a very direct and short and minimalistic approach, like single ingredients. And I thought that nature was not that. So my challenge has been to create a new concept in beauty where I want to express consumers that nature is not minimal. Actually, is the opposite. For me, nature is
Hmm.
maximal. Nature is about colors and textures and aromas and shapes.
Hmm.
It's like being in Barcelona. We have this very famous architect called Gaudí, and Gaudí
Hmm.
understood that, and he reflected that in all his buildings, like the famous Sagrada Familia. It's all about nature
Hmm.
shapes. So I wanted to recover all of that into the cosmetics world.
Okay, and I think this is visible on Migreen's website as well. And thank you, Miguel, for sharing such a in-depth background about your history. Uh, so you have experience around cosmetics, skincare, fashion, and marketing and copywriting as well. So like all of this got combined into and then finally found formed Migreen Cosmetics. So have I summarized it right?
Yeah, that's exactly. So then I wanted to create a brand with a strong storytelling because nowadays, since internet and the digital period we are living, we all know the scroll on a phone lasts only a few seconds, not even seconds, millimetres of
Yep.
seconds. So
Millisecond.
you have to be very impactful and you have to create a story so that consumers stops for a second and pays attention to you. So in order to do that, the storytelling and the brand position is very, very important, you know. So I wanted to create something that expressed that richness of nature. If you see here in my background, I have all this beautiful, silk, you know, tapestry. This is a bit
Hmm.
of my inspiration from the time I was working in Japan. I love the kimono. I love the geishas have these big belts in the kimono. They're called obis.
Hmm.
So all these obis are made by hand with silk, wooden silk, and they are actually craftsmanship, and it's a beautiful piece of art. And the delicacy of the kimonos and the obis and the hours the artists, spend doing that is something that nobody sees. It's something doing, you're like
Hmm.
indoors, but that makes the value. And you have to pay a lot of, it's thousands and thousands of euros to get a real kimono, so I was mesmerized by that art, and I wanted to express that on my positioning, on my brand positioning. So I said, okay, I'm going to do something different. And then I had this great idea of creating a metaphor of nature where my packaging was to be bulbs of flowers before blooming. I wanted to create different
Hmm.
flower bulbs before blooming, So through the years, I had the chance to be friend of the professor of art of Shanghai University. He's a friend of mine, and he's not doing anything in the marketing side, not even in beauty. He's doing like all these huge murals, for big conventions, big entrances of buildings. And he's a master. He's like a true master. I mean, his work is so valuable that he only can charge you by square centimeter. He cannot put a price on the whole place. He's going to tell you, okay, I charge you by a square centimeter. So for me, it's the same if it's a small flyer or if it's a huge mural. It depends on how long I'm going to take. I'm going to charge you by centimeter. And I say, okay. And then I had this idea, and through the years, I had the chance to get some money, some extra money. And then I asked him if he could come to my home to do a painting for my living room. He was very excited about the idea. I was even more excited than him, and I asked him, okay, Spain is about light and color, and we are very well known for fiesta, and we are a very cheerful community, and I want to express that happiness, you know, on the painting. So his challenge was to do a metaphor of spring blooming, and he was very excited about that because it was the very first time he did that kind of theme in his paintings, because his paintings were much more winter autumn like, mine were about color. So the painting came out beautiful. I can show you later if you want. Beautiful. And then he was so pleased, and I was so pleased that he took a plane and came to Barcelona to show my painting hanging on my wall on my apartment. It was something quite unique because normally, a painter doesn't spend his time visiting all his clients. But he was very, very proud of the outcome of the work, and we spent a great time here in Barcelona. And he came to my place, and I showed him his painting, so we became friends. So I tell you this story because this is quite atypical. Let's say is quite unique. So years after, when I had this opportunity of launch my brand, I said, "What if I ask David to do my paintings?" And he was very surprised, and he said, "Well, Miguel, this is not my field of expertise, but because we are friends, and I really like you, and you're a fun friend of mine, I'm willing to do it." And I said, "Okay, I want to do a collection of colors. So each of my family has a brand, a color. So we will have the blue family, then we will have the yellow family, then we will have the orange family, and so on." And so he started doing these, laminas. How can you say that? These little paintings for me, like is just like wow. It was like stunning. I can show you a few. Okay.
Yes, I have seen these on your website when I was doing research, and I really like them. Wow. So all of these are yellow ones.
No, this is the blue family, then the yellow family,
This
the
one
orange
is
family.
blue.
So, because I had these amazing, illustrations, I had to do a special packaging. And then, as I said, many of the brands that exist so nowadays, they use more or less the same kind of packaging. It's like amber glass or violet glass, with a very minimal,
Hmm.
blending label. And they just say one ingredient like sandalwood and argan oil. and they want to be like
Hmm.
they think it's very chic to be this kind of minimalism. And I said, well, my green is not about that. My green is about going to the jungle. I don't want to get into the city. I want consumers to go into the jungle. So for me, my advertising on my head, it was like, imagine there's a huge storm in the jungle. A huge storm is full of water. Everything is wet. And then after the storm, a ray of light, hits a flower. And then suddenly the flower opens for you, and is blooming for you. And inside the blooming, there is a seed. And the seed is the jar of my cream, so it was like a crazy concept. And I said, people are going to be shocked, because normally all cosmetics are shown on a bathroom with a beautiful model, with beautiful hands taking the
Hmm.
jar, and it's very classical approach to beauty. And I said, no, mine is not that. So if you see my brand, it's called Pure Raw Wild.
Hmm.
My green branding is Pure Raw Wild. Pure because our cosmetics are so pure that they are edible. You can eat them. They had no fillers, they had no colorants, they had no chemicals, they had no preservatives. It has nothing but pure nature condensed into a cream. So this is very new, because normally people are putting on the skin very many substances which are actually not that good. And now we have found out that through the years that it has an effect on your hormonal system. So especially for women, so with my green, you don't have that problem, because actually my green says that you shouldn't put on your skin anything that you cannot eat. So the same thing on the other side means that anything that you can eat, eventually you could put it on your skin, because if your body can absorb it, then your skin can absorb it. you know of course, we will have to
Hmm.
make exceptions about acids and irritative substance that exist also in nature. But that's the idea. The idea is that we are giving to you something so pure, so natural, that it could be applied on the skin and it could be eaten, right? So then this isn't like this is the for me, this is the innovation about the formulas of my green is really very well appreciated by consumers, because there are many people now that take yoga classes and they want to become vegetarian or vegan, and they pay a lot of attention to a healthy lifestyle. So my green is that kind of consumers search for beauty. Then the thing is that people have to be educated, because what happens most of the time in my experience is that we got used to this standard fragrance, like like we call it like basic hygiene fragrance, like a shampoo, a gel for the body, body wash, face wash. They all have this kind of clean scent, but it's chemical, and it's like a universal scent that is made to be
Hmm.
pleased by thousands of people. So it has to be very neutral, right? It has to be very, very neutral. So suddenly, when people get like natural products, they are surprised because it doesn't smell like that. Natural product smell
Hmm.
like nature. So for me, it smells amazing, and for all my consumers, it smells amazing. But for a new consumer, this is gonna be the first shocking, characteristic. It's like, wow, this is smell like a forest. Oh wow, this smells
Hmm.
like a bunch of flowers. Oh wow, this smells like a aromatic herb, right? Then you have to explain them that in our products we are also using aromatherapy. So my products, if I have to define my cosmetics, they are phytocosmetics. Phytocosmetics means they are made with medicinal plants. So I'm using also
Hmm.
Ayurveda. So you all know Ayurveda from India. So I'm
Yeah.
using medicinal plants because in Ayurveda and in Chinese traditional medicine, and also in European monacal medicines, that mean the monks and the nuns in the monasteries on the 15th century, they use all these herbs to heal people. We had no pharmacy. Modern pharmacy came out much later. So at that time, people were healing themselves with plants, and all this wisdom, maybe it was by a shaman, a mother, a witch. We use them different names, but it was this knowledge that was inherited, through generations, and everybody knew that that herb, that plant, that root, that leaf, that flower, that bulb was used to heal such and such, you know, manifestation of sickness or imbalance on the skin, you know. So it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I mean, I could live 10 lives and I won't be able to use all the knowledge of nature because they are
Yeah.
huge manuals. Like, you know, the most famous one is called Dioscorides, comes from the Greeks, you know, and before Christ. So all this vademecum of knowledge belongs to humanity, right? And is universal. So in my green, what we have done is to recover all that knowledge and then actualize it, making it in a new way, creating exclusive synergies, vegetable and botanical synergies. So we have created super potent formulas that actually heal your skin. So with Phyto-Cosmetics, like my green, you are not only moisturizing your skin or giving it nutrition, you're actually healing your skin. Because for the first time in his life, the skin is going to be nourished. So it's very shocking.
Mm.
Every time you use one of our products, the skin immediately absorbs the product because there is nothing chemical. So it's like feeding the skin with pure nutrients. So the skin loves it.
Mm.
So the feedback is so positive. Every single one says, "Oh, Miguel, my skin is eating your product. It's not even absorbing it; it's eating it." And I say, "Yeah, that's the idea. You're giving it nutrition, vitamins, you know, oligoelements, proteins, glucids, anything that exists
Mm.
in nature. We're giving it to you on a topical formula, and by applying it topically, your skin absorbs it." So this is
So,
amazing, and the projection in the future, you know, is outstanding. So I had this, as I said, I had this, going back to my speech about the packaging. I had this beautiful formula and I wanted to have it on a beautiful packaging. And then, as I said, I got my friend that did my illustrations, and then I asked my friend, what if we go to work with the School of Art and we ask the students to do a grant in art, and the project is to create an origami box. Origami is Oriental papyroflexing, means you blend the
mm,
papers to create shape, and there is no
papers,
glue.
yeah.
You have to do it by hand. So they agree to work with us, and this is the outcome, which is amazing.
Yes. It looks amazing, yes. And it opens up like a flower as well. Mm.
Okay, so this represents the lotus flower. It also comes from Buddhism. In Buddhism, the lotus flower represents the purification of the matter over the mud. So it is said, how can such a beautiful flower bloom on an apparently dirty substance, which is mud? So for them represents purity. Then it has 8 petals, you know, which represents infinity, which is the perfection of time. So the mandala of my brand is eight
Mm.
ferns. A fern represents the purity of air. Is a fern, as you know, is a little ball that opens like that,
Mm.
you know. So the mandala represents 8 ferns before blooming. And then what happens with my box is quite shocking. Once you open it, right? Once you open the box, it blooms for you, you know, and it does that. I don't know if you can see it. It opens like a
Yeah.
flower, it blooms for
Mm.
you. There is no glue. And inside, instead of having a crystal jar, you had to have a seed, and a seed is made of wood. So, voila, my seed. It's a bamboo sphere, you know,
Mm.
and it has a magnetic spatula made of gold, sticks on the top.
Nice.
And again, it represents a value of the Buddhism. The sphere is the perfection of shape, you know, the sphere is the perfection of
Mm.
shape, and gold is the perfection of the alchemist, because gold represents the
Mm.
element in, you know, aurum nobilis. Aurum nobilis is the perfection of alchemist. So the whole storytelling is about talking the perfection of nature. So it's
Yeah.
lotus number 8, round shape, gold. So everything is like creating this experience, like, oh wow, oh wow, oh wow. So consumers, when they get into the my green universe, is all the time, oh wow, oh wow, and they open and it's oh wow, oh wow. So wow, this is what I wanted, right? So once you open the sphere, inside you will find the cream. You see. So this was the very beginning, and then I am, through the years I wanted to grow, and I said, okay, let's gonna create a collection of facial serums, facial oils, because as you might know, skin has 7 functions. So I wanted to create one serum for each of the functions. So if the skin has 7 functions, it means the skin has 7 needs. So if the skin
Hmm.
has 7 needs, I'm gonna give you the 7 solutions for each of the needs, right? So again, following, my beautiful paintings, right? I have my, okay. So if the cream was the lotus flower, this is the tulip flower. The cream had 8 petals. The
Hmm.
tulips have 4 petals,
Petals.
okay.
Yeah.
And they also open like the origami boxes, and they actually bloom for you the same way. And inside you find the beautiful jar, you know, which comes as a family with a sphere. It's bamboo and in its round shape and it's gold on the top, you know. So everything creates like a very coherent family. So this is my cream so far. We only have 5 products. Okay, we have a super cream in 2 different versions, a regular and enriched, and then we have the 3 serums for the first 3 functions of the skin. And in the future, I will be launching the new 4 ones, to complete the collection of 7. So yeah, this is where we are now.
This is so great, and I'm seeing everything, the storytelling skill that you mentioned and all the steps. And Miguel, just as you mentioned, your customers goes, oh wow, and I've gone oh wow like 3 times during this story. So I'm you're definitely hitting the right notes. Uh, so I also want to understand, because when we were doing research about migraine, and we saw that the USP, I mean, apart from the packaging, the marketing, and the brand positioning, your USP is also in the process and the extracts you make in house, and you don't outsource, and you don't basically purchase chemicals from anywhere else.
Yeah,
You make your own extract. So can you tell me a little bit more about that? Uh, I mean, in a short manner, basically,
yeah.
like what's the quadruple extraction process, or like what is slow cosmetics in this context?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So what happens nowadays is, especially after COVID times, many chemical houses, they did what is called greenwashing. So greenwashing
Yeah.
is like getting ecological, conscious. Many of the companies of the modern companies, they are aware that they are polluting nature, through
Hmm.
water, through the air. We are very conscious about climate change and things like that. So this conscious, ecological conscious and social conscious has made the greenwashing movement. So what happens is that all the providers of cosmetic materials, like we have many in India. India is very big for cosmetic raw materials. Many of them, they had imagined a vademecum of 5,000 references, and they are all chemical,
Yeah.
which can be okay or cannot be okay. Some of the chemical ones now can be labeled as clean cosmetics, even if they are not nature, they can be labeled as clean because means they are not harmful. But many of them,
Hmm.
they are harmful. So now they are forbidden. So especially, for example, in deodorants and things like that, we have been absorbing toxins through the years, and now they are forbidden. But imagine all those previous years, you, me, your mother, your grandmother, they have been absorbing, toxic substance. So nobody's going to say it, but many of the illnesses we are suffering now comes
Hmm.
from the amount of toxins we've been accumulating through years since we were kids, right? So all
Yeah.
this green movement makes that now all these big houses give you like a small portfolio of natural ingredients. And they say, okay, we are chemical. We have 6,000 references of chemical ingredients, but now we can offer you 300 on natural, and they are going to
Yeah.
give you the basic natural ones, and they are going to give you argan oil, sandalwood oil, sesame oil, and then beautiful, rose essential oil, and so on. So they feel like, oh, I am conscious, I'm conscious with nature and I
Yeah.
respect consumers. So uh, today, a 6-year-old girl can go to one of these big houses and says, I want to launch a cream. And then the house says, okay, I'm going to give you 5, 6, 8 ingredients. I'm going to mix you in a mayonnaise. Let's call it mayonnaise, which means it has a filler. It's called excipient. Excipient is the
Hmm.
body of the cream, which is only the matter that holds the active ingredients.
Holds the, yeah,
Yeah,
other chemicals. Hmm.
yeah, exactly. So this matter has only is a carrier. This matter is a carrier. The only purpose is to be on the surface. It might have some humectant properties because it's made of Vaseline. So it's made from a petroleum derivate like mineral oil or Vaseline, or silicones, and all that. It will never penetrate the skin. It cannot. The molecules are so big
Mm.
that they will always stay on the surface. So
Mm.
it's like cheating the consumer in a way, because the consumer is going to feel some comfort, because they do give comfort, because they are
Mm.
like a lubricant. You see, you feel your skin
Yeah.
lubricated, but that doesn't mean your skin has been nourished or moisturized inside. It means it has been lubricated on the surface. So if I create a plastic, glove on the surface, this plastic glove, what it's going to do is to avoid excessive perspiration. So your sweat, your natural sweat that you perspire through the day, instead of volatilizing, is going to be kept on the skin. So this is understood
Mm.
as a moisture. But you see, it's different to moisturize than to create a humectant. It's not the same thing. Moisturize is that you
Mm.
create water inside the skin, and humectant means that you are holding your sweat. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is clear. Yes, I
Yeah.
understand.
So
Yeah.
most of the regular cosmetics we're using today, they are humectants. They are holding your sweat inside. So it doesn't make sense, right? Because actually you are interfering with the perspiration, and perspiration is natural. Your skin is made to perspire. Your skin, the primary function of your skin is not to absorb anything. The primary function of your
Mm.
skin is to sweat,
Yeah.
and actually when you sweat, you if you touch your skin, it's salty. It's very salty
Yeah.
because we are sweating, mineral salts and all these things. So um, this is making a big change now in the cosmetic world, because people are getting concerned about that, and they say, okay, we don't want that. I don't want to have a substance that interfere with my hormone system. I don't want substance that
Mm.
might, create me problems in the future. And I want to use natural products. So and then the challenge is to go back to nature. And then, as I said, you go back to human wisdom. If you go back to Ayurveda, if you go back to traditional Chinese medicine, or if you go back to monacal, European medicine, what they did is to get the plant into different vehicles, right? And they
Mm.
created like balms and liniments and tinctures and lotions, by blending the plant with the carrier, right? So it's as simple as that and as complicated as that. Why? Because laboratories don't have the time and the people to do that. That
Yeah.
takes such a long time. That's what is called slow cosmetic. So if you go to a laboratory, they are going to use a solvent called hexane, and hexane is going to,
Mm.
dilute the plant in maybe 15 minutes. Rather, doing the
Mm.
other way around, you need 40 days. So 40 days
Yeah.
versus 15 minutes, it makes no sense. In nowadays life that everybody is so on speed. So all the laboratories say, no, Miguel, this is too long. It's going to take me too long to do that for you. I cannot do it for you. I rather use my Exxon, and in 15 minutes I give you a super concentrated extract. And I said, no, I don't want a super concentrated extract, because first of all, nature didn't make a super concentrated extract. In nature, it doesn't
Mm.
exist on a natural way a super concentrated extract. You see what I mean? You cannot eat a super concentrated tomato. You cannot eat
Mm.
a super concentrated whatever. It's ridiculous.
Mm.
You can eat a tomato or you can eat a whatever. And your system, your body, through the years, has evolved to have receptors on the cells to identify that substance. So, for example, I always explain
Mm.
this because it's very easy to understand. If you see a tomato, the first time you see a tomato, your eyes see the shape, the round shape of a tomato, and the red color. So through the
Mm.
brain, you're gonna send a signal to your system. This is a tomato. We are going to eat a tomato. So what can we expect? So we presume that we are not going to be intoxicated. We presume that a tomato
Mm.
is healthy, because through the years our
Mm.
ancestors have been eating tomatoes. So nowadays, today, we consider it a non-poisonous food, right?
Mm.
So if I'm going to eat a tomato, all my cellular receptors are going to open the holes where the keys of the nutritious
Mm.
ingredient are going to go inside, right? So a
Hmm.
tomato has many things. It has magnesium, it has vitamin B's, it has vitamin C, it has many substances. So each of the substance is one key. So that key is going to look for the hole on the cell to go inside and activate it,
Hmm.
right? So if I don't do that and I said, okay, I am a clean cosmetic, I'm gonna isolate, for example, the lycopene is a very famous red pigment of tomato, it's called lycopene. And I said, okay, I'm gonna isolate lycopene and I'm gonna give you like in a concentrated extract of lycopene. Then what happens is that the cell is a bit disappointed because she was ready to get 25 keys, 100 keys, and she's only
Yeah.
getting one, which is called
One.
lycopene. Then it makes no sense for nature. You know, a naturopathist will say you this is ridiculous. For you, it's 100. What is better for you to eat 10 capsules of lycopene, to eat
Hmm.
one tomato? Of course, it's much better to eat a tomato because the tomato is made of is what as I said before, the synergy. It's the synergy of substance. So your organism is always, if it has to choose something, it's going to choose the tomato. He doesn't want to
Hmm.
eat lycopene capsules, no matter how pure they are, no matter how concentrated they are, no matter how whatever they are. This is like an extract of nature. So hello,
Hmm.
we're doing something wrong, you know. And then the third step would be okay. We understand the tomato is better than the lycopene. Okay, so what is better if I give you tomato every day of the week, every single day of the week, you eat tomato, at the end it would be quite boring, right? It's like your body cannot survive only with one tomato. So, what if
Hmm.
I prepare you a super salad that it has tomato, lettuce, salad, sprouts, nuts, pieces of fruit, what we call a superfood salad. Wow. Then the body is very excited because in that superfood, there are many more ingredients that just in the tomato that already had many more ingredients than just in the capsule of lycopene. See?
Hmm.
So this is what we're doing at my green. At my green, I've created a super salad that has 52 ingredients. 52. Can you imagine a salad with 52 ingredients? It's crazy. It's like, it's the best salad you could ever eat. So when you give my green to your skin goes crazy. It's like, oh my God, this is the best salad my skin has ever had. And then the skin transforms and blooms and wow, it's shocking. Did I explain it clearly?
Understood, Miguel. Understood. That you have amazing way of storytelling, so I really like that. And so basically, what I understand is, you are making your own extract,
Yeah,
and you're not sourcing anything from anywhere, and you're using purely natural ingredients, so
exactly.
nothing concentrated. Uh, so did you face any technical challenge of making this, basically making this possible
Yeah,
internally? And yeah, so
yeah.
can you tell me a little bit about that? Yeah.
So imagine the first challenge is, and on the same time is a strength. It's like this is the good thing about sometimes we say in coaching. I am a coach also, so sometimes in coaching I do coaching for other companies, and I do coaching for for business, engineers and directors. So I always explain them that sometimes a weakness can be transformed into a strength, right? Every
Hmm.
time, and this I want people to be very clear. Every time you see a natural product which is white, it's impossible. How can a
Hmm.
natural product be white? Any
Yeah.
extract from nature, any natural juice, any natural puree, any natural whatever, it has a tint. The clearest thing I could do, it would be milk and rice. And milk and rice, it would never be white. It would be a very light beige. You see? Or if I do a yogurt cream, it would be a light, like a dirty white, like a sand white or a bone white, but never pure white. So if
Hmm.
you're having a cream and you say, "Oh, this is really natural," and you open it and it's white, it means it has used the isolated molecule of the natural substance. Again, you have isolated that molecule, you have cleaned it, you have taken off all the color, and then again we go back to our lycopene. So, okay, this is an
Hmm.
option. This is what we nowadays is called clean cosmetics. I have nothing against them. Okay, I think clean cosmetics, of course, are much better than regular chemical cosmetics. Is one step forward. But for me, my green is still a new step forward. So the first challenge is
Hmm.
that in my green there is no white cream. Never. It can't be. It's impossible. So every time you open my green, it's a light beige.
Hmm.
And this people love because it's about honesty. They feel this is real. They feel this is true. And when you explain them, yes, of course it's true. And then I always get, now it's very fashionable having wheat grass green shots. You saw these green shots, chlorophyll, and you
Hmm.
drink them. Have you seen them in India? I don't know if you have that in
Yes,
India.
yes, I have.
Here now, it's very popular in Europe. We have these wheatgrass machines that you put like grass, herbs, and you squeeze it, and it comes just a few drops of pure. It's like the blood of the vegetable, right? So it's a
Yeah,
concentrated of
it's
chlorophyll.
how sunflower oil is also
Yeah.
extracted from
So
seeds.
if
Yeah.
you do that, it's never transparent. Never. It can't. It can't be
Hmm. Yeah.
transparent. So this is something that was a challenge. The first challenge was to create products that were not white, not transparent. They are not baby blue. They cannot be light pink. They cannot be light green because all those colors are chemicals. So people have to
Hmm.
understand that if they see a very pale blue is a chemical. So this was the first challenge. Okay. And then the second challenge, as I said, it was about the scent. If you open my cream and you smell it, it's like, oh, it's Bulgarian rose and it has iris flower and it has Indian sandalwood. So it has many different notes. So actually, your nose is getting super excited because instead of getting just one single note, that is a chemical perfume, one single note. Imagine like universal scents like Nivea or Dove or all those big
Hmm.
names, Olive Oil, all those creams. You open it and you only get one note. No, it's like if you go
Hmm.
into a concert on an orchestra and you have all this orchestra, and you have the master of the orchestra, and then there is only one fa, and you stay 2 hours listening to fa. It makes no sense. So
Doesn't make sense. Yeah.
when you get this cream, then there is the whole orchestra, there is the whole symphony. There's do re mi fa sol la
Hmm.
si do re mi fa sol la si do re. Then your skin, your whole system, your brain, your nose explodes because there are hundreds and millions of new volatile molecules that are gonna activate different parts of your smelling system, and then are gonna create
Hmm.
a cascade of hormonal reaction in your body, and actually it's going to rebalance you. So depending of the essential oils we've chosen, I can activate your system or calm down your system. So for example, I have an amazing oil called green rebalance. Okay, this oil
Hmm.
green rebalance is calming. So if you are anxious and you cannot sleep, or you are going through a period of stress, your skin's going to break out. Okay, so by using this, your skin is going to calm down, and then if you smell it, you could put a few drops on a tissue paper and put it beside your head on the pillow, and when you sleep, you calm down. So if you're very stressed, you could get a few drops and put it under your tongue, or you could get an infusion and add a few drops on the infusion and drink it because it's pure
Hmm.
nature, and then your system is going to calm down. On the other side, if you're feeling a bit depressed because you have the blues, or everything is you're not going fine, yeah, then you get youth dream, and this is uplifting. You smell it and suddenly you feel energized and you feel happy and you see life in a different way. So this is a huge challenge. So to educate consumers that they are not going to smell just one single note, which is very boring, as I said, and they're going to smell millions of different notes, and it's going to be like a symphony, takes time.
Hmm.
Because especially older consumers, especially older women, and this is the contradiction, like older women normally have the money to buy because my pricing is medium high, so younger consumers maybe don't have the price to buy my cream, and older women do. But older women, they are so used to this one single note that it's very
Well,
difficult for
yeah.
me to convince them. And I say, please madam, please use the cream and you will fall in love. And they, this smell is not what I'm used to. Oh, I prefer the smell of my cream. So what can you do?
Yeah, and understood. So basically, it's not the technical challenge, of making the product, but it's actually marketing it and educating customer. That's the challenge that you're facing at the moment.
No, the
So
challenge
have I
about
summarized it right?
no, the challenge is that in nature, very rare, 1 plus 1 is 2. You
Hmm.
see, so the outcome is always a little miracle. So I cannot, I don't know the outcome until I do it, because this is a magic of nature, you know. So it's not as easy as in the chemical side. In the chemical side is like, for example, if I put you 100 milligrams of olive oil, then I put mango butter, then I put hyaluronic acid, then I put your vitamin C, then I put you that, the outcome is going to be X, you know. Here is like, there's more magic involved, you know. So the
Hmm.
elements blend between themselves, and the outcome, you know, is not so easy, you know. So we call this life, that the products are alive. This is
Hmm.
life. Now that we're talking, you and me, something is going in here. You see, the molecules are creating new links because it comes
Hmm.
from a plant that was alive. So the molecules still, you know, blend each other. So the products change. It's like a change. So this is beautiful in a way, but then it can be shocking for consumers, because that means that this year my cream smells this and has this color, but maybe next batch it doesn't smell exactly the
Will be a
same
little
and
different.
don't have exactly the same
Yeah.
color. So then you have to explain, of course, madam, because this year my sandalwood came from the north of India, but next year my sandalwood is come from the south of Thailand. This year, you know, because it has been raining, you know, the flowers of the lotus flower, you know, in Bangladesh were amazing, but maybe next year we had no rain and there's very, very little flowers, and the harvest of that year is not as good. So the product is going to change. So
Yeah. It's
at the
always
same
going to be
time,
unique and different. Yeah.
yeah. So at the same time, this is very honest. You're not cheating the consumer.
Hmm.
You're telling the consumer, I'm going to mix these ingredients for you in the most beautiful way, but the outcome is unexpected. So that makes,
So, Miguel, I'm sorry to cut you off. So,
yeah, yeah,
now that you use a lot of natural ingredients from different places, so do you also face, you could say, feedstock issue, basically from sourcing these ingredients from different places? Any challenge you face there, that sometimes ingredients are not available, or sometimes you face logistical issues of getting them? So, is that something that's happening?
yeah. Like what we do to avoid that is we do very small batches. We never produce
Hmm.
thousands of units. So a fresh cosmetic. This is also what we call signature cosmetics. My green is signature cosmetics. Signature cosmetics is
Hmm.
that I'm going to create a 300 unit batch, and then
Hmm.
you go to the waiting list until I create again a new 300 batch. You see, so I don't have stock. I don't want to have a stock, because it would make no sense for my brand philosophy. So, as you
Yeah.
said, if I don't have a stock and I want to buy again the same, for example, a Bulgarian rose, you know, if I want to buy again the same Bulgarian rose, maybe it's not possible, because maybe that year the harvest is very
Hmm.
scarce, or maybe another competitor bought it before me. So that
Hmm.
means you have to be always so aware of new distributors. Like now, for example, 2 years ago, it was in cosmetics salon, and I met some
Hmm.
colleagues of you. I met an Indian house of essential oils, and I was very pleased.
Hmm.
So now I'm working with
Hmm.
essential oils from India, and before I was working with essential oils from France. You see, so it's a
So
challenge, but I think it's beautiful in a way.
yeah, it sounds beautiful, and I think it really adds up to your brand that this, since vendors change, sourcing change, so the product also evolve over the time and it changes. Understood, Miguel. So I think, since because you have explained everything so briefly and in such depth, I don't have a lot of question. I had a lot of question, but almost all of them got answered
Great.
while you were speaking. So basically, what's next for Migraine now? So basically, any next challenge that you're planning to pick.
Yeah.
So
For
what's going to be that? Yeah.
Yeah, for me, the challenge is what we call accelerating. You see, so I would like to be listened and heard by companies that would love to that like this concept. And as I said at the beginning of our conversation, I would love to find new distribution channels, new points of sales. So far, we've been distributed in a very exclusive places, like we call it boutique hotel. Boutiques hotel are all those old mansions that have been refurnished as little hotels, and maybe they only have like
Mm.
8, 10 rooms, because you actually go into a villa. So the price position of those villa is quite high end price, and that consumer finds very interesting to have a product like this because they are looking for exclusivity, they are looking for quality, they are looking for prestige, and my green offers that, so we are also in very small, we call it niche perfumery. Niche perfumery is like signature perfumes where you find exclusive brands, very rare brands, because sometimes consumers don't want to have the same smell as everybody else. So instead of
Exactly.
buying a mainstream brand, they want to buy something very exclusive, and they are ready to pay 500 euros, 300 euros for a fragrance. So in that kind of point of sale, my green also works very well. Then we also work very well in exclusive spas, where people go to have exclusive treatments. And then I always suggest use my green as the final step of any treatment. You can do the facial, the protocol with any basic oil. You do a massage, but at the very end, you apply my product as a final product, and my product is gonna sublimate sublimates the treatment, so the client goes home with a beautiful face, and then it's very easy to tell them, okay, this is the step you're going to follow at home. So they buy my green as the continuity of the spa treatment they got, and they love it. So I would love, to keep growing, because I have in my mind so many new products, and I want I want to launch my red cream, and I want to launch my green cream, and I want to complete my facial collection of oils. For that, I need, to grow and get people, excited about my green, because I think it's something so different and so unique.
Miguel, so you're targeting a niche market because based on what I'm able to piece together, these are very specific areas where your products are applicable, and of course it makes sense. You are kind of you are into green luxury, and you're on a slightly on the higher end of cosmetics. So is my green planning to enter into a different segment as well, like maybe more accessible and more commonly usable product line? Is
Yeah.
that also something that on your line?
Why not? Yeah, like if you've seen, there is a big difference of price between my cream. My cream is 195 euros, is nearly 200 euros, and the serums that go from 61 to 65, right? And I did it on purpose because I realized that launching very high expensive products, I was not able to reach the younger generation. And because especially this oil, I already show you, the green rebalance is an amazing oil for acne, for people with impurities, with people with pimples or sun
Mm-hmm.
marks or any impurity. This oil is amazing. So I wanted to make it the cheapest of the brand, and I wanted the young generation can get into my green, because I think as a brand you have to grow with your clients. So I can not only be addressed to elder women or elder men. By the way, my green is completely unisex, right? And men love it. So I want also to go to the young generation and grow with them. You see, so I'm very aware that the price is an issue. So why not in the future? I could be launching, more economical. But what I want people to understand is that origami is very expensive. All these paintings are very expensive. My jars are very expensive. Shaba, I could have done it very, very classical way, in a much cheaper way,
I
but it make
Yes,
no sense.
it's understandable, Miguel.
Yeah. So I want
It's
consumer to understand that all that effort I'm doing it is a present for my consumer. I'm giving you a present. I want you to have a global experience, an holistic experience. So to have an holistic experience, maybe it's a little bit more expensive, but I think it's worth it.
totally, Miguel. And I think cosmetic industry and even the natural ingredient based cosmetic industry is very crowded. There's so many players on different levels and like in different geographies.
Yeah.
So it's very important to you could say hold strong on your brand and your values that you've created. And again, pricing and positioning and brand is all part of
Yeah.
one
Come
thing.
on, Shaba.
So
Oh, today the teenagers that are expending 700 euros on a mobile. Hello,
yeah.
and for them it's normal. So if you're paying 700 euros for a mobile, you cannot pay 65 for a super serum for your face. Come on, So it's the same
Yes.
like eating organic or eating bio. People know that if you go to a bio supermarket, an organic supermarket, your food is going to be more expensive, and they take it
Well
like
said.
a
Yeah.
normal. Why? Because they understand that that food has no chemicals, and that food to be produced has taken other resources and is more expensive, and they are going to buy a kilo of oranges 3 times more expensive, on a bio supermarket than. So it's the same. If you want to buy a super natural product, you have to understand that it's always going to be more expensive than a regular chemical one. But it's value. You're buying
Yeah.
quality, and actually you're buying health. So health has no price. For me, health has no price. So by using pure 100 natural products, you're buying health also.
Totally, and it makes perfect sense, Miguel. And I hope our readers also see this message, and we get something out of it. So that was the end of my interview, and it has been like really interesting, really entertaining to talk to you, and listening to you about the stories you shared.